The hard truth, boy, you might not like this, but here you go. Love is easy. The relationships are what's hard.
Curious what business owners are doing to double revenue, have more cash flow, work less hours, and provide a better lifestyle for their family? Dive into the world of business growth that leads to guaranteed wealth. Your hosts, Dr. Laura Swaluk and Jerry Kezhaya. Grow and get answers to your business and investment questions that provide clarity, move you forward, and inspire you to reach your goals. Welcome to this edition of the Business Builders Intensive. My name is Dr. Laura Swaluk, and my co-host is none other than Jerry Kezhaya.
That would be me.
Yay. Tressa Yonekawa is our guest with us today, and you're really going to want to hear everything she has to say because I know that you are probably experiencing a relationship that is hard. It may be your personal relationship with your spouse, or it could be employees, a parent, a child. So, Tressa, tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of introduce yourself to our audience and let everybody know kind of who you are and what you do.
Dr. Laura and Jerry, thank you so much. I am truly honored to be here with you. I love the work that you're doing in the world and that you've done for decades now. I am here because we deserve to have the best relationships of our lives. And I know for a fact that almost none of us got the education, training, or role models to do that. And it's a very different kind of languages. I come from a cognitive science background. So I have my degrees in neuroscience for cognition and communication. And I've spent 30 years working with top leaders all over the world, actually. I feel very blessed and it's never felt like work. And as I've worked with top leadership and teams doing on the consulting side, I was starting to hear things like, hey, those things that you were teaching us about at that group meeting, I used at home and have been using, and now my wife and I are getting along better, or my husband and I are getting along better, or my kids are talking to me now instead of ignoring me. And so what I learned over the past 30 years is that there are a specific set of real tools that impact our cognition, the patterns and stories that we have, to the point where we get to make choices rather than being subconsciously led or dragged by those patterns and stories. And I want all of us to get to the place where we don't have regrets about how we've chosen to live.
I love that.
That's beautiful.
How did you even get interested in doing this? Tell us a little of your history.
All right. Well, I'll tell you my secret. I've always been fascinated with communication. And one of the reasons is that the communication in my home growing up was not great. It was fairly chaotic with some stability. I had a drowning death experience or near-death experience when I was very young. I was 4. I was at the Pacific Ocean at Santa Cruz in California. Stepped off a sandbar and drowned. And in that, at 4, I very clearly, vividly remember having an experience of being a part of all communication. So being able to hear the thoughts and feel the saliva in people's mouths as they were talking or yelling or whatever it was. But it was from a place of what we would consider maybe bliss, that there wasn't the human emotional construct. It was just pure love. And so as an observer of this, and then watching my body be revived on the beach and hearing from all around me, you have work to do. I mistook that for decades as work harder, work more. Don't just build one company, have 3 jobs and build a company, all of those things. So I thought that you have work to do meant working a lot. What it actually meant was it had nothing to do with death. I'm involved in the work of fully living. So as I moved from California as a kid to Montana, I was outside a lot, away from kind of the chaos. Feel like I was raised by nature. So when we're inquiring the first sages, the first scholars did this. They sat in nature and just watched what was happening. I had that vantage point too. So I got to see what was happening with the river and the moss in the river on the rocks and with all kinds of other things. And just was reading texts and was, learning about how communication works through all kinds of modalities. And finally went to college and graduate school for those degrees in neuroscience and cognition and communication, and started working with leadership right out of the gate. And it was phenomenal. It's just been mind-blowing how our brains mislead us because of the patterns that we created around the stories that evolved before we had the opportunity to have consent about taking on those stories or not.
Can you give us an example of somebody that you worked with so that we can identify with the process of what you're saying?
Absolutely. I work pretty exclusively on NDAs, but I can give you a couple of examples that are from the distant past without identification. One that's really clear to me is a couple
So first of all, NDA is a near-death experience. So I want our
oh,
A
listeners to be.
non-disclosure agreement.
yeah, in this case, an NDA, I work with the non-disclosure agreements.
Okay, I was thinking NDE.
Oh yeah. Actually, yeah, you're totally right about that. And we have the NDAs because most of the people I work with, especially now, are very high profile and they don't want other people to know they're struggling with their relationships. And I
Mm.
That's
always
fair.
push back on that a little bit and say, but if you would come to the front and say relationships
Yeah.
are hard, they actually take work. They don't just happen magically. We really have to be intentional and understand what we're doing in relationships, or we're flying blind and we're flying on the subconscious patterns that we're going to talk about right now.
Okay.
One couple that I worked with in the distant past, CEO and VP level, and they had what we all think we want. And in fact, most of my clients come to me and say some form of, listen, I have everything the world told me I was supposed to have to be happy. Tell me why I'm still not happy. And that's a huge question. And it's deep when you finally get to that place where you go, we have all the things and we do the vacations and and still why are we not happy? Why does this not solve for all of the issues that we have? And it's because those issues come from typically long ago, typically between the ages of 3 and 9 is what I've found anecdotally. The research is going to say that it can be anywhere from the ages of 0 to 14 that we pick up the stories about who we are. I find that all of my clients say, oh yeah, that feeling of unease or of tension or of like that gripping anger, I can relate back to the time when I was 3 to 9, typically 3 to 7. So it doesn't matter really what was happening in that moment. What matters is the message that they got and the story that was created, typically, not typically, 100% of the time about self-worth, self-value,
Mm.
in my experience. So we get the story that whether it's from a look, like a stop it look, or you're not, your words aren't worthy here, or I don't want to hear you, or stop acting out. It can be something as simple as, when we're kids, we just want to run everywhere, like run and jump and play. And
Laura still does that.
right, I still like to do it too. Um, and our adults around us may find that they are challenged, embarrassed. They don't think that's supposed to happen. So they'll shut that down, knock it off, sit down, sit still, all of those things. That also can make us feel like we're not doing something right. Right? We're wrong. What are we doing wrong? Nobody told me what I'm doing wrong other than moving the way my body wants to move. So now we're learning that we don't move the way our body wants to move. We don't really listen to our bodies. And right there can be where we get tripped up.
Mhm.
Right. So now we have a story that I can't trust myself and I'm not valued. Now, cognitively, the pattern that's going to surround that story and protect that story, because the people who are teaching us this, are doing the best they can, but it doesn't mean they're right.
Yeah.
Right. So now we learn this from somebody that we trust. Our first models of what relationship and love are have told us that we are not valued and that we shouldn't trust what our body wants to do. Now cognition says, okay, in order to stay safe, we're going to protect that story. And you would be surprised, if you haven't done this work before, of how that carries through and impacts our lives all the way until we can see it and make choices around whether we want to continue that or whether there's something better for us.
Fantastic. So
Beautiful.
so you work with groups, you work with individuals, and what does a session like actually look like? Like if
It depends on if it's on the corporate consulting side, executive coaching side, or on the couples work. So it all depends on what the need is and what the root problem is. And I think one of the things that's very exciting about this work in the way that I do it from this cognitive standpoint, I'm not the only one who does it, but I love doing it this way, is that we get to the root very fast. We're not just unpacking the fires. We're not just putting out fires. We're getting to the root of what that fire is, because in almost no case is the problem about the problem that we think we're arguing about. And so when we can very quickly get to the root, get to the pattern, get to the story, and what I've found with several people is that even 30 years later, 20 years later, 10 years later, recently, I received a message from a client from 27 years ago who said that their kids were now using the tools and great marriages, great families, tight family unit that they had not had previous to that. And I think that to me is so exciting that when we get it, our kids can get it. And when our kids can get it, they can move forward with that. And then the people around them can get it too, because now they know their value. They know what to require from other people as far as the communication and the clarity and the respect and the mutual offering of truth of self in the spaces between us and everyone else.
Mhm.
That can change everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds utopic. I love how you describe the saying is a rising tide lifts all boats. And to hear it generationally carried on is amazing.
Amazing.
So, first of all, before we continue, would you let people know how they can reach you? What's the best way to reach you if they would like to work with you?
Oh, thank you. TressaYonekawa.com, and I'm at Tressa Yonekawa on all the socials. So thank you.
Spell it for people who are listening and can't quite
Thank you.
read the show
It's a
notes.
mouthful. It's TressaYonekawa.
Perfect. Thank you. Jerry, do you have any questions before we go to the hard truth?
No, I think this is fascinating. I'd like to know, so your typical session, is it an hour, a day, half hour? I mean, how does that, when people do you do it only in person? Do you do it via Zoom? I mean,
Yeah,
how
I
does
do.
this work? Tell me,
Yeah.
I'm the technical kind of
You're
guy.
the logistics
I
guy.
want to know how to build a watch.
I love it. Yeah, I do both. I do a lot of virtual because I see people, very fortunate to see people all over the world.
Mhm.
And time zones are crazy. I still stumble once in a while, but virtually and then in person whenever I can. I also facilitate in-person events. I want as many people as possible to have access to this.
Yeah,
And I also go facilitate with other people when I'm invited on stages, which is one of my favorite things to do, and also at retreats or, conferences and things like that.
yeah, I got it. Yeah. So again, a session is normally an hour, 45 minutes.
Normally an hour, and it usually takes about 1 year, 12 months. And for the first part of that, we're weekly, and then we can go every other week or once a month. It just depends on where people are at. But we're learning a whole new language. And one of the things that I've gotten as feedback is this was a lot quicker than the 20 years of therapy we've done. And I absolutely believe in therapy. I absolutely believe talk therapy is amazing. And I want more faster. And so this does that. It's also a lot less expensive than divorce.
Oh my gosh.
But
Without question.
there's a joke running around out there. You know why divorce is so expensive?
Hmm.
Because it's worth it. But ba-dum-dum.
And in some cases that's true. And what I would consider a success, most of my people rekindle and reframe and move forward, expanded and better, and they grow together in different ways. A small percentage of my people, I think there have been just a handful, like 3 to 5 people, who have opted to do a very elegant exit.
Mm.
And I consider it a win when we remember that we loved each other, and in some aspects, we still do love each other, even if we hate each other. That we got together for the reasons that were right for us in that time, and that as we do this separating of things in space and negotiating, if we have kids, like I'm always very concerned about kids and
Yeah.
the impact on kids, that we are doing it in the most loving, healthy way possible for ourselves, for each other, and for our children.
Yeah, I get that. You know, Laura and I was married once before, and that was a 10-year marriage. And then I learned, and Laura and I have been together for almost 30 years. So I think we've both learned a lot over these 30 years. And Laura, you were asking me if I'm ready for the hard truth. The hard truth is it's easy to fall into love. I mean, that's
And it's
basically,
fun and
honestly,
exciting and adventurous and oh,
Yeah.
juicy.
it's a
Oh,
hell of a chemical reaction in your system,
yeah.
right? And then after a while, that serotonin and dopamine hit just isn't quite the same. And this is when the relationships become, I don't want to say they become work, but they certainly take effort. They really take, like, people say, oh, relationship is 50-50. I'm calling hogwash on that. There's no relationship out there, in my opinion, that's 50-50. It's either 100% and 100% or it isn't. Because
Yeah.
there's times, and I can just tell you from our 30 years, there's times when I fell out of love with Laura, and there's times she fell out of love with me, right? There's times I'm an ass. You keep that in, you don't have to beep it out,
No, Jerry, no.
right? No, seriously.
And there were
And
times when we both fell out of love with each other, and yet we still had the commitment that we were going to stay together and we were going to figure it out.
Yeah.
and the reason was we made the agreement 30 years ago that the needs of the we are greater than the needs of the me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I put my selfish needs on hold. She put her selfish needs on hold so we can keep the selfish needs of the relationship going.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, to me, if anyone goes, well, how'd you guys stay together this long? That to me was my answer. We
Mhm.
took the needs of the me and replaced it with the needs of the we.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that's huge. The way I talk about it is we have to keep turning toward each other.
Yeah.
Even when we want to turn our back on each other and throw an elbow jab, we need to
Yeah.
turn toward each other. And if we're not, if we don't have the presence to say, I know that we love each other. It's really crunchy right now and very uncomfortable. I am not feeling good about this right now.
I'm
And I know that on the
uncomfortable.
other side of this, we're still going to love each other.
Yeah.
So I promise you that I am not going to say anything that's going to harm me or you or us.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's lovely.
Yeah. So say more about uh, if somebody's feeling that crunchy right now in their relationship,
Yeah.
what's how would you advise them to begin with? What's the first
Well,
step?
one of the caveat I give is that if there's abuse, that is a whole different
Yeah,
animal.
yeah,
And
that's
also, we need to be aware that we say very abusive things. We can do very abusive things when our triggers are meeting our triggers.
Can I
So,
add something in there? Sorry for
please,
interrupting, but
yeah,
abuse is there's abusing each other, but then there's abusing alcohol, drugs, some other kind of addiction. There's that
right,
kind of abuse as well. Those
right.
two, I think, in my opinion, have to be addressed first.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I'm not a therapist. I just work with cognition. So I refer people to the right people when there is addiction or, when there are other problems.
Mhm.
What I can help solve for are the stories and the patterns that create the issues where our triggers are talking to each other because our triggers are nonsensical. Our triggers are simply self-protection in the act of survival from the oldest part of our brain.
If someone does need to have an abuse or addiction problem handled, what kind of person should they see? Who should they see?
Definitely a professional therapist, definitely
Okay.
someone who can address that from a medical perspective,
Like a
from
psychiatrist or a
I would recommend psychiatrist, psychologist, start with your physician,
okay.
because I think there are ways that now we know that we can look at addiction from other facets other than you're choosing this, it's a weakness or it's a chemical instability or whatever that is. So I think it's multifaceted and it's way above my pay grade.
Gotcha. Okay.
good
So
answer.
I wanted to make sure that because we brought that up, we wanted to give people solutions and a direction to go with.
Yeah.
Okay. So now back to if that's not a problem, there's no abuse, there's no addiction, but the relationship is crunchy and it just feels like a never-ending speed bump in the relationship.
Yeah, and we keep having that argument or those arguments on repeat, or we're walking on eggshells, or we started editing what we say or how we say it
Mhm.
in the presence of or to our person. Those are all huge flags that there's something going on that has been a continual buildup of agitation, frustration, um, a lack of respect starts to happen, and then we start not caring if our person's feelings are hurt because our feelings are hurt. And now we're talking trigger to trigger. And those triggers can come on so quickly because it is a chemical. It is the flash of survival, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Now, it is possible, and I know this from 30 years of experience and from my own experience, it is possible to learn how to pause, to take a breath, to open our arms, to open our palms, our arms, and our heart is how I explain it. So we have arms open to say, I recognize old patterns here. I don't want to say anything harmful. Can we just take a breath together? Because I know we can do this better together. Instead
Beautiful.
of what you would have said the 30,000 times before, which is you always, you never, why can't you? I don't understand why, like, or the eyeball rolling, or the, oh, great, or whatever it is that we would have responded with in self-protection of the pattern and the story.
So when a couple comes to you, do you work with them one-on-one first?
No, we get right into the heart of it.
Get in there.
And so I do the couples sessions, and then we do also see each other one-on-one, because there are some things that we need to work out with their personal patterns and stories that are impacting their lives in multiple ways, that also impact their coupling. And there are things with their coupling that impact their personal stories. So we want to be able to sort those out. Typically, it takes longer than the hour that we have in a couple session. And one of the things that has been anecdotally reported to me by my clients over time is that they have an increase typically in their income or revenue of 38% to 300+%. And the
Wow.
reason is that, just like when I was working with leaders, it impacted home. When we're working with home, it impacts everything you do, because we're working with self-worth, and we're
Yeah.
working with our truths, and we're working with how we present in the world. We're working with safety that we have as a foundation in our home, in our lives, and in our own person. And it can't help but impact everything in a positive way, just like we have these limiting beliefs or ceilings or bottlenecks or whatever are happening because of these patterns.
And it
That's
affects everything. I mean, it's spot on. I mean, it absolutely affects everything. So, it's once you start, so Laura and I have been on this amazing healing journey. I personally started mine in 1984.
Wow.
And so I'm clearly one of the OGs, the old goats. But it has been a fascinating journey, sometimes with medicine, sometimes without medicine.
Yeah.
And we're really getting into this Sensing Life program for clearing out stuff. But what we know is the more we work on our internal speed bumps,
Hmm.
right? The more, I mean, it's such a holistic thing. Every part of your life is intertwined and interconnected. And if you're having an issue, so we've been professional business coaches for over 13 years. And the one thing that we found that is almost 100% is if you're having troubles with your business, you're having troubles in your marriage. If you're having troubles in your marriage, you'll have trouble in your business.
Mm.
Those two are so connected. And then it will trickle down into now you have trouble with your children. Now you have trouble with finance. Now you have trouble with, I mean, it's it's so holistic,
Yeah.
right? And it's so difficult to try and explain that to people in such a way that they get it. Oh no, my marriage is fine. Really, have you talked to your wife lately? Because I promise you, there's something going on somewhere, brother.
You know what?
Right?
And that's exactly the same as what I find in leadership in every place I'm in. Every place? Yes, every place. That leadership says everything's fine. Like, we're good. And then the people working with them say, "Oh, this is a mess," or "Oh, this area is not good," or "Oh, this isn't clear." So it's a really interesting place where we almost have a need to believe that we're okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I mean, it goes
that's a
back to
big
this.
lie.
I mean, it goes back to the stuff that we picked up when we were kids, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I just read a report that said the majority of your uh, life habits you picked up by 18 months old. It's like, holy crap, there's kids out there can't even talk at 18 months old, and they're getting set up for their life at that point. That's insane to me. But
Yeah.
yet here we are.
And here we are.
And here
And I
we
mean,
are.
that's why, therapy is a huge industry. Like we're trying to undo or redo or, figure out all the things that we learned early on that we now realize are impacting us as adults.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing. I've worked in this for 30 years. I've practiced what I preach, and still I need to work on it. So when we talk about love is easy, relationship is hard, the truth is, if you don't learn the tools that work for you, they don't have to be mine, but if you don't learn the tools that work for you, to be able to have clarity and connection, you are going to have more and more and more problems because things build up.
Yes. And it becomes a huge snowball effect and takes over your entire life.
Yeah.
Absolutely takes over and can destroy your entire life.
Yeah.
And I talked about my first marriage briefly, and I will say, I'd like to say it was all her fault.
We can say that here.
Well,
I'd
and
like
I
to
have
say
I have a
that.
question about that
No, no,
because
wait a minute.
yeah,
Let me
yeah, I
finish.
do.
The truth is, most of it was my fault.
I mean, it
I
takes
did.
two.
I'm sorry.
It takes two.
Well, yeah, but the most of it was my fault because I had no idea how to communicate effectively with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And you speak female, I speak male, and sometimes the disconnect is like this,
Yeah.
right? Like it doesn't work at all. And then it's very frustrating. Well, I told you that, but you didn't say it in such a way that I heard it.
Right. Or that I felt heard. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
So
You're right,
So,
Jerry. It was all
can
you.
can I jump to my question, or do you have something
yeah,
else that you want to say?
yeah.
So when a couple comes to you and they're pointing fingers, oh, it's his fault, it's her fault, or it's their fault in leadership or whatever it is.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? How do you get them to see take responsibility for their part?
Yeah, well, okay. So the easiest way is that I prompt them and I say, listen, I'm going to have you look at each other, turn toward each other. Everything I do is active. So when I facilitate keynotes, all of my speaking, all of my facilitation, it is 95% interactive because if you don't have the experience of it, you're not going to remember it.
Yeah.
So the experience is I have people turn toward each other and just take a couple deep breaths and just notice what's coming up for them. And then I prompt them. I'll say, I want you to say this out loud, and it doesn't need to be true right now, but I want you to just assess the truth of it. Okay. And you can say it's complete baloney. That's totally okay, but I want you to say it out loud. And the prompt is, I take full responsibility for my part in the problems that we are having right now.
Mm.
Beautiful.
And I have been surprised. You guys might not be surprised, but I have been surprised and am honored to witness when those two people say, you have never said that to me before. I have never heard that from my person before
Wow.
because we're so self-protective. So now when they say it and they say, that is actually true, I can feel in my heart that that's actually true.
Wow.
It has a huge impact on where we can go.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I have nobody in 30 years who's ever said, that's not true. I have no part in the problems that we're having.
Yeah.
Everybody recognizes that, but we haven't had a model of taking that responsibility, having that clarity, and saying, I take full responsibility for my part in the problems that we're having. And I'm really sorry. And I want us to do better.
That's amazing. That's an amazing place to begin. Tell people again how they can reach you just one more time.
Find me at TressaYonekawa.com or on all the socials at Tressa Yonekawa, and it's TressaYonekawa.
Awesome. Thank you.
Beautiful.
At the end of each of our episodes, I ask our audience a question. And the purpose of the question is to prompt them to take action. And so my question this time is, have a look in your life. And if you're driving, don't do this. But if you're not driving, do this. Close your eyes and ask yourself, inside your body, is there a relationship that you kind of go, "Urgh," or feels crunchy, or just doesn't have that love that it once had? And you'll know what I'm talking about. If you close your eyes and you go inside, it's like, and it could be a parent, could be a child, could be your spouse, could be a coworker, or boss, who knows? But if there is one, please reach out to Tressa. You will be so glad that you did, and so will everyone around you, because a rising tide really does lift all boats. And now I want to ask you, Tressa, and you, Jerry, is there anything that you'd like to add or say to kind of bring us home?
One thing I'd like to say is I think it's really important for us to acknowledge, and if everyone will say this out loud, also if you just feel into if it's true for you, that I am worthy of the best love of my life. I am valuable, and my presence here is a gift. And I also receive the gift of the presence of the people that I love.
That's beautiful.
Wow, that is beautiful. I have a question about that. How do you deal with people who think they are the gift?
Well, it's really interesting that there are far fewer of those people. There
Yeah.
are like a minuscule number of those people who have those tendencies to think they are the gift. And when they do think they are the gift, it's typically a protection
Oh,
mechanism.
yeah,
And
I
so
can see
once we
that.
can get under there, like I, again, above my pay grade to deal with sociopathic or, those kinds of things. Um, and when we have people who don't have those kinds of mental illnesses who front that they're the gift, it's like bullies. Bullies are the mushiest hearted people that are trying to protect themselves, and they've learned that the only way to protect themselves is by being the harder one or to, get at somebody first so that you can't see how mushy they are. And that also has been true through time. And I think that when we can get to the root, then we can get to the truth. When we can get to the truth, we can get to that clarity. When we have clarity, we have choices. And that opens up a whole new world, total expansion.
That's awesome.
And what I would wrap up with is there is a book out there called A Dose of Hope by
Mm,
Dr. Dan Engel.
mm,
I'd recommend that to people that are looking to heal trauma. And trauma, in my opinion, is not what happens to you. Trauma is the story you make up about what happens to you. Is that fair? And so in this book, Dr. Dan Engel, Dan was one of the doctors that was working on the phase 3 study for FDA approval of MDMA for PTSD.
wow.
He has personally treated over 4,000 patients up to the time of the writing of the book. And in the book, he says that 70% of us Americans have unresolved trauma in their body. 70%. We have gone, I've read another report just recently where it's 84% have unresolved trauma. That's like almost everybody in this country.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's,
Do something.
yeah, there's
If you don't
also
feel called to speak out to Tressa, do something.
reach out to us,
Reach out to
BBMMUSA.com. Uh,
reach out to somebody somewhere. And I will tell you, I had PTSD so bad, so harsh that we could not go out to a restaurant on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night.
Mm.
I could not be in a building like that. Um, I had one treatment that changed my life so profoundly. And I have been on this mission, if you will, to bring healing modalities to people. Because
that's
I
part of why we
personally
do this
believe
podcast.
this is why we do this. We talk about, I am a firm believer in sensing life, .us, by the way. I'm a firm believer in MDMA therapy. I'm a firm believer in psilocybin. Some people are now leaning on, I mean, ibogaine is the current belle of the ball. Texas just collected like $100 million for ibogaine research. This is real, folks. This is not a, you got one shot at this life, just one. Let's make it the best that we can and help as many people. We have a saying, and the saying is hurt people, healed people, heal people, and blessed people, bless people. Thank you for being on our podcast today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And gosh, that was beautiful. We really appreciate you spending time with us. We really appreciate you for listening and for sharing our podcast with other people. Please reach out to Tressa. Please reach out to us. Even if you're not hurting, there's always good ways to learn how to increase your capacities for love, your capacities for fun, pleasure, for being fully alive. That's, Tressa, you said it's about living life and having your best relationship. Even if it's good, hey, you know what? Let's make it even more fun.
Woot woot! I'm in for that.
So on that note, we will end today's recording, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Grow and get answers to your business and investment questions that provide clarity, move you forward, and inspire you to reach your goals. Share the show and connect with us at BBMMUSA.com to submit questions and learn more. That's BBMMUSA.com.